Hey everyone, it's Kimberly Bueno Schoenig. I am the CEO and founder of Bueno Schoenig Consulting, and welcome back. Today I am talking about 4 tips to help you improve your resume. I know this is a huge topic, so I'm only providing 4 tips today, but if you like and you follow and subscribe, you might learn a little bit more. So if you haven't yet seen my last video, I created a video talking about 4 things you need to do before you start applying to jobs. So after this video, make sure you go watch that video. And let's start with the first one. First one is make sure you curate your resume. I talked about this in my last video, but I'm going to reiterate it because this is a huge point. If you are not curating your resume for every single job application, you are kind of falling behind and you might not necessarily receive the results you'd like to see. And what does curating your resume really mean? Well, essentially, it really just means that you're taking every single job application and creating a personalized, curated resume for that job. And I'll talk a little bit more about why this is important in our later points, but that is just something that is a huge plus and something that I see all the time where individuals are not actually curating their resume for each job. They're just sending a general resume to a bunch of jobs, and that's actually harming them in their job application. Tip number 2 is check your format. Your resume format is very, very important. And I like to tell clients and individuals that ask for help that usually it's industry standard, but if you can make sure that your resume just looks professional overall, that's great. And make sure that when you are applying to jobs, it's easy to read. And if you print it out, the sides and words on the sides are not getting cut off, right? We want to make sure that is important. The reason why resume formatting is important is because it takes about 6 to 5 seconds for a hiring manager or a recruiter to determine whether or not they're going to even consider you or keep reading. Trust me, I've been a recruiter before. I've worked with hiring managers when it comes to hiring positions. I've been a hiring manager. I've employed people before. And the reason why it's so important that you just make sure your formatting is professional, clean, and sleek is because when you're applying to a job, you pretty much have to assume there's a lot of other people that apply to that job as well. And usually hiring managers and recruiters don't have enough time to just really look at your resume and determine if it's worth reading. That's why they say it's about 4 to 6 seconds for a hiring manager or recruiter to make a determination. So that's really important. The third thing that I have here is include relevant experience. So what does that really mean, right? Basically going back to our curating point, but we're kind of elaborating here, right? I highly recommend to either print out the job description or have a screen with the job description and then have your resume right next to it. You can print this out or you can have it on your computer, whatever works best for you. But I highly, highly recommend doing this because you want to go through each of the responsibilities and or duties listed in that job description and make sure you're able to include experience in your resume that is relevant to the roles and responsibilities. Right. So what we want to make sure is that you're able to include experience that has some sort of relevancy to what you actually have to do for the job, because that is what your resume is intended to pretty much showcase. It's supposed to be a quick overview of whether or not you can actually do the job or if you're qualified to do the job. So if you're including information on there that isn't relevant, you're most likely going to go to the no pile. And that's not what we want for you, right? We want you to have as many offers, as many interviews, as much as possible. So the best thing to do to help yourself is to make sure you're curating and including specific relevant experience, which goes on to my last point, which is including metrics when describing your experience. Because you might be thinking, well, what's relevant experience, right? Well, you want to take a look at the work that you've done, right? So I always recommend, right, the strategy of having the job description up and your resume up, and say, for example, you don't have a resume, just think about all the work that you've done and see if there's a way you can kind of measure that. Can you measure your performance or measure the work that you've done? For example, if you are applying to be a social media manager, have you managed accounts before? Have you grown social media accounts? What platforms do you use? Are you able to create graphic artwork? Are you, you know, how do you keep up with the trends? Do you know what hashtags to use? And the reason why these are good questions to ask for yourself is because you're going to have to figure out a way to write down what your expertise is or your experiences in your resume, and be able to show that you've measured it. So that way, when a hiring manager or recruiter is reading your resume, they can actually see the analytics that you're providing and understand that you can help them scale either their business or help them in the responsibilities and duties that they're asking this person to do. Now, some examples for non-social media roles. So say, for example, you're applying to a paralegal assistant position and you've interned or volunteered. Internships and volunteer work can be actually very, very useful to your job application. Do not write them off, even if they're not paid. You just have to understand that when you're thinking about what to include in your resume, how many data reports have you managed? How many presentations have you designed and produced? How many lawyers have you served? These are good information to have in your resume, because you're essentially saying, I have the capability to be detail oriented. I have the ability to be an administrative support for X amount of lawyers because I have supported X amount of lawyers during my time frame working at the company. And so these are just things and examples of what to include. If you're interested in finance and you want to manage money, have you managed that before, and how? Explain some how much money you've managed. So maybe you've managed 100K and you grew it to $1 million. That is great, useful information to include in your resume. So with that being said, those are just some of my 4 tips on how you can improve your resume. I hope this was helpful for you. And if it was, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe Bueno Shonen Consulting. I am hoping to put out some content related to business and or career every Tuesday and Thursday. So stay tuned, and thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you later.